What's up guys, it's me Ollie and today I'm bringing you a crafting guide for all the Whirlwind gear, both Selig and non-Selig, so the Resolve Stacking Life variant, right? First of all, sorry for the delay. I know a lot of you guys have been asking for this. I just was trying to make one that was going over all the crafting mechanics, how you can use them all to influence the outcomes of your gear and stuff like that, but that was getting way too complicated to explain and make short. So I just thought out for now, make this one, so you know how to craft your gear, and then later on, once I figure out how to explain it properly, I just put one out going over all the crafting as a whole, right? For now, let's actually get into this one. Since this video got quite long, I'm gonna have the timestamp for all the different gear crafts on the description, and it's gonna show up on the video bar as well there, so you can jump between them depending on what you want to learn. So, starting off with our weapons. The weapons are generally simple with the exception of your main weapon for the Selig variant. So starting off, you're gonna either want a strength GA or critical damage multiplier. They're both very close, regardless. They are simple to craft. So starting off with this one, you ideally gonna want strength, life or resource on lucky hit, depending on the variant you're playing, and crit multi and either fizz damage or all damage, right? That's what you're looking for here. So in this example, we already have a fizz damage multiplier there. We're gonna assume we don't, right? We're gonna still mess around with that. And we have Fury on Kill. So Fury on Kill is a Fury mod, right? So if it's a mod that you don't want, let's say you have life, you're playing Selig build, you just remove life and you add on the resource. In this case, since we already have resource there, we're just gonna pop down here, get the resource one, and we're just gonna do a focus reroll until we get resource on lucky hit. And you can keep doing this until you get the good roll. One thing I do want to point out here, right? You can use F to transmute, right? You can use F, and if you already have the stat, it cannot roll again on the next one. So for example, if I press F here, it's gonna roll a resource stat, but it can never be primary resource, right? So look at this. It's always gonna fail, right? It's just gonna give me Fear and Kill. That doesn't work. So what you can do whenever you do hit, for example here, we hit again, you can just click F, wait for it to proc, and click F again to do it instantly, right? You're gonna see me doing this a lot of times during the crafting. I just wanted to point it out, so we got it again. We do the quick one, and we got 8, that's perfect, right? So now we need to get strength onto this item. How do we do this? Well, quite simple. You just gotta do add affix, put the Adept Tuning Prism here, and it will give you strength. This is something that you can keep going back and forth. You don't like the strength roll, you remove it, and you add it back in, right? You keep doing this until you get something that you're satisfied with, right? Let's say we're looking for 350 maybe, right? That's a good amount of strength. Just keep doing this. Oh, that's the bottom roll. You keep doing this until you get it. Once you get it, you're done. You can just remove this. You no longer need to use the cube. Because, okay, 340, that's good enough, right? Now, you just come over here, and you roll the last one. So, the fizz damage multiplier is kind of low. I'd like to get something better, right? And you just keep rolling this until you find either all damage or physical damage multiplier in a 20%, right? If you want 20%, you don't really need to go for 20%, but hey, just keep rolling this. Like, for example, you got 14 here. We already have 18 there, so I'm not going to change it. But that's how you craft this, right? If you don't happen to have an additional modifier, just add an additional physical one. If your mace doesn't have the physical modifier or all damage, just go here. You add an offensive one, and you get the physical. And if it's not a good roll, you just go on the enchanter and you roll it, right? When it comes to strength, however, it's slightly different here. So here we're gonna do a life one. It's the same thing between life and resource. You just replace the one you're using. It's exactly the same thing. So we're gonna do life here. Let's add life. Right, we got the life. I'm not really happy with that. I'm gonna do focus reroll. Right. Again, it cannot roll life again. So let's do 4,200 maybe. Same concept with the resource we talked about earlier. If you already have life, the next roll cannot be live, so you can easily, roll it super quickly, because you know it cannot hit life again. So just roll it super quickly. That's a good one. Now, This is when it becomes a bit tricky if you're doing strength. If you're doing strength, you're gonna have to add offensives, right? There's no way around this. You just have to add them. The thing is, strength is also offensive and a stat. So in this case, if I try, luckily we got all damage modifier, right? You're always gonna get the all damage or physical, right? Or fire. That's the thing. You can get fire. If you, let's assume I got fire and damage over time. What do? You're just kind of screwed here, right? Not really. Because you might think you're gonna risk, you can just do this. You can just do focus reroll on offensive and potentially lose the strength. You could do that. That could technically happen because you can still roll weapon damage on this, right? What you do is you can do a really nifty thing. If you roll a modifier here, in this case you're gonna roll strength, don't do anything else, you just roll and you do not change, it will still stay as a GA, right? And the thing is, crafted modifiers cannot be rerolled on the cube. So I can just come in here, do focus reroll until I get both a damage multiplier and the crit damage multiplier that I like, right? So here we just do focus reroll offensive. This will never hit the strength, it will just roll the other two. So we kept the all damage multiplier and we got weapon damage. So we just hope we focus the weapon damage. This one is a lot more random, as you can see, but you'll eventually be able to get one. There we go, right? I would say you can get a lot higher rolls because you can more easily target, modify by starting with a critical damage multiplier already in there, right? Because strength has its own thing when it comes to weapons, right? You can just use the adapt one to remove it and add it back in to go for a better roll, right? While when it comes to offensives, you don't really have that choice. Here we got lucky, but even if you don't get lucky, you can still reliably get both of the multipliers. It's just harder if you start with strength GA. It's just harder to actually get both of them to be max roll. Here we got lucky, they're both pretty well rolled, but most of the times it is a bit harder. Now, when it comes to your offensive weapon, your main weapon, right? The weapon you're gonna be attacking with, you want weapon damage on it. If you want GA or not, it's gonna depend from build to build, depending on the stats you have. Weapon damage will be more damage, GA strength will be more damage, critical strike damage multiplier will be more damage. That doesn't really matter here, right? So what matters is, if you're playing Selig, this is a bit tricky, okay? If you're not playing Selig, we do the exact same thing we did with the strength mace, right? Because this is you want to have strength, and you have to have a multiplier, and you want to have a life, or you don't want resource on Selig. So first of all, let's craft the life one, right? Life one is quite simple. We already have life there, so we just do focus reroll until we get life, right? Focus reroll, we got life, perfect, it's there. Now we just need to add strength, and we would be done with this, right? You just add strength, bam, that's your mace done. Again, if you want to roll this, you can remove and add strength multiple times, right? Until you actually get a good roll. You have that option. And you can do the same thing for the life. You can do focus reroll on life and just stay here multiple times until you get the good life roll that you want. When it comes to the Selig variant, however, it's a bit harder because you don't want life, right? So let's go over here. Let's remove life. We don't want life on the Selig variant. So how do you handle this? Quite simple. We're gonna be doing the same thing we did back here on this one, just with the weapon damage instead. So on this one, if you start with strength, it's way harder. You really don't want to start with GA strength on this one. It's way harder because you're having to roll perfectly 3 stats instead of 2 of them, right? Here, we're just gonna go over here. We're gonna have the last one, right? We got fire damage. That's bad, right? You could settle for this. This is decent enough. You can just keep re-rolling the strength as much as you want. And, you can just roll off the fire on the enchanter. But let's assume you got damage over time and fire damage multiplier. What do you do there? If you get that, you just put this thing in here. You lock the weapon damage again like we did the strength. You do no change, it stays the same. And now, you go over here, and you remove strength. Strength is just gonna be an annoyance for now. Right, you remove strength. You just have these two multipliers. Now you do the same thing. You just come here, you do focus reroll until you get the two modifiers that you want with the rolls that you want. Because now weapon damage cannot be rolled, right? We got damage over time, we don't care. We got strength, whatever. You could remove it if you want. Another thing that you can do here, for example, you can try and do this in a more targeted way by just removing strength. You remove another one, or you can remove an offensive. It doesn't really matter. You can just remove offensive, and you go from a blue here. You just roll that offensive to something you want, right? Let's go for a good, maybe a good critical damage roll, right? Let's go for a good critical damage. You can press F. I'm not doing it. You should. Okay, that's 44. That's pretty decent, right? So now you just do the offensive once, and you got fire damage. That's bad. So you can remove this and hope you keep the crit damage. You didn't. So you go back to focus rerolling, right? Just keep focus rerolling until you get another crit damage or all damage modifier. That's perfect. The reason I do recommend crit damage is because on the second one, being all damage or physical damage, you have three, right? You have fire damage, all damage, and physical damage. Two of them you like, so it's a 2 in 3 that you get what you want. When it comes to crit damage versus damage over time, it's a 50-50, so it's less likely that you get it. But if you get the max roll, you might as well try to add the affix and see if you get lucky. Right? There we go, we got it, right? That's perfect. That's a good critical damage multiplier, a good all damage multiplier, and now you just go ahead and you add our strength, and you can keep rolling this as much as you want until you get the strength roll that you want, right? You just keep doing this. I don't like that one, you remove it, and you add it back again until you get the strength you want, right? Let's just settle for now. You just can keep doing this until you get the stats you want, right? That's how you do this one. Now, what happens if an item is already legendary? That's a bit trickier to do. So, in this case, I would like to keep both the strength and the max life, because, you know, I'm playing a life build. So what I would do in this case, since I have to roll, I got weapon damage and damage over time. Those are useless to me, right? So what I would do, you can gamble for it, but personally, I would lock strength, right? Strength is locked, no change.
It has been a
Strength is locked now, and we do the focus roll we talked about earlier, right? It's quite simple, you just do it until you get both the stats you want. So we got physical damage, that's good. Can we get rid of the weapon damage? We did, and we got crit multi. Now, this is already usable. I would not settle for this, because the rolls are kinda bad. I'll just keep rolling this until you actually get the ones you want, but that's how you do it, right? When it comes to something that doesn't already have good stats like this, for example, this one is what you get whenever you just spam a bunch of transfigurations or random uniques trying to get something like this, right? This is often what you get. You get the gem strength that's modifiable, but on an item that just has awful stats, right? Let's assume I'm crafting this for a Selig build. How would I go about this? Because the Selig build is the hardest one, right? So we have 2 life rolls here. That's kind of a problem. What you do is you do a chaotic reroll, and you can target what you want to remove. So in this case, I'll remove either the life or life on hit. I'll do this, and now that has become an offensive modifier. That's good. Now, if I want to play a life build, I just do focus reroll now until I get the life, right? Focus reroll until we get the life, and it's done. If you're playing a Selig build, this gets really rough. So, what you can do, right? What you can do is just gamble. There's not a lot you can do on this one. It's really hard. If you start with something that's kind of bad like this one, it's really hard to get something good out of it. But you still can. So first of all, we need to do category roll because you don't want the life at all, right? And you get something like this. Now, This is already usable, but the weapon damage is kinda low. One thing that you can do to try and increase your odds is to try and get both the multipliers, right? Both of the multipliers set. You can just change the strength to life, you can change the weapon damage to something else. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna reverse what we did. You're gonna chaotic reroll away from, for example, Fury and Kill, that's perfect. And we're gonna do another one, trying to get life perfect. So now I can focus reroll the stats I care about, which should be damage from crit damage, right? Or physical damage multiplier. That's done, right? And now you'd also want to get either crit damage. We hit the one that we didn't want, unlucky. You want to get crit damage and physical damage here. Because ideally you want to leave rolling the weapon damage to last. Personally, I do prefer it that way. So you just keep doing this until you hit both of them. So physical damage there, let's see if we can roll over that. We didn't hit it. Okay, physical damage and crit damage. The roll is kind of low, but it is what it is for now. So now, if I do a chaotic reroll on life, it can only hit weapon damage and strength. It cannot hit burning it cannot hit fire damage. It cannot hit damage over time because they are locked, right? Physical damage and fire damage cannot be on the same item, and crit damage multi and damage over time cannot be on the same item. So those are now locked away. So if I turn them back into damage affixes, as you'll be able to see, okay, we didn't get the one. Chaotic reroll. Chaotic reroll can roll anything on an item, right? So you just keep doing it until you lose the stats that you don't care about. Okay, there we go. We got weapon damage. We actually got a good roll. That's nice. And now we do the same thing for resource, which is this one. You do chaotic reroll again until we get the strength. There we go. This is a perfect item. Now, depending on the stats you get, here personally I would roll the critical strike damage because it's the lowest one. The strength is a good roll. The weapon damage is a really good roll. The physical damage is the max roll. So I'll just go on the enchanter now. And I would finish this off by rolling the critical strike damage, right? Roll the critical strike damage, you're set, and you got a really decent item there that you can then masterwork the gem strength. I mean, this is mineral gem strength, but you know, it serves as an example. And before we go to the next craft here, I just want to point out I'm not crafting one-handers because they are the same exact process as the off-hander. So in this case, the crafting we did on the mace, right? They are the same exact process. You want the same exact stats on them. Hello. And Ramaladnis you cannot craft, of course. So it's just for the legendary one-hander. Now, let's talk about rings. This is something that can be very complicated. So, let's assume you're going for crit chance, vulnerable damage, critical strike damage, and physical damage, or all damage, right? This can be a bit rough. First of all, it has life here. We don't want life. We gonna just remove the life. It's useless. Now, the first thing that you do is you put offensive, you just roll offensive, and you see if you get lucky. Good critical damage, nice. All damage, nice. And strength. It doesn't matter at this point. Personally, you can try and do this right now. You just do this. You just remove the strength now, right? And you keep adding offensive. See if you get a good natural critical strike chance, right? That's it. We got strength again, so we're gonna remove it again. And we're gonna add another offensive, so if you get crit chance, we got strength again. Strength is quite high weighted, so that's normal. Just gotta keep going until it doesn't show up again. That's it. And we got unlucky, we got attack speed. So in this case, you just go off and reroll attack speed to crit chance. Now, you could get unlucky. You could not get anything. You could get damage over time. If you don't hit two of them, right? Because it's basically a 50-50 between damage over time and crit multi. It's a 50-50, it's a 2 in 3 between damage multi, fizz multi, and fire multi, right? And then it's basically a 50-50 between attack speed and crit chance, because you can just, whenever strength comes along, you can just do what I did, you remove the strength, and you do add an offensive, and hope that you hit the crit. So, if you hit 2 of them, you just roll the other one, we just go on the enchanter, and roll the attack speed to crit chance, right? I just go to enchanter, and just do this, right? You roll the attack speed to crit chance, and you're done. This is already a very top of the line item. I mean, you roll it if you don't get unlucky like I am here, right? Okay, ain't nowhere. Okay, this is just... Oh, we skipped crit chance there. There we go. You roll crit chance, you're done. You can roll it to be a higher value as well. You kind of want your crit chance to be high. The other thing you can do, I have an example here that I did. Where is it? Actually, is it the ring I'm using? Yes, the ring I'm using, okay. The ring I'm using, as you can see, vulnerable damage multiplier is rolled there, but that's a GA. That's a GA vulnerable damage, right? If I go and upgrade this, if I go and masterwork this up, you're gonna see it's the same value, right? That's a GA vulnerable damage there, right? Same value. So what I did there was I locked the vulnerable damage multiplier, and I did what I did on weapons, right? I just kept rolling it and rolling it and rolling it. I personally, what I would recommend doing is you roll the first one on the blue item, you roll the critical strike damage. So we're gonna exemplify that here. You're gonna, because this is a cooldown for if you are playing with cooldown as well, because I know some builds do play with cooldown. I personally do on one of my push setups. So you go over here, you add an offensive, right? And then let's assume that's vulnerable damage and it's locked as well, because it functionally is the same thing, it just matters at the end. Because at the end you cannot roll on the enchanter to finish the item off. That's kind of the drawback of doing it. I don't recommend doing it on the vulnerable damage. I did on this one, and it took me 300 or so rerolls to eventually get it. It takes way too long. It takes way too many cube resources. I'll just recommend starting over, because it's much easier to get a bunch of GA items, especially from mobile farming. You just farm mobiles, you buy on the items on the mobile vendor, and you're done. It's much easier, so I'll just recommend, if it fails, the chances of you failing are very low, but if it fails, you just get another one and you go again. Because doing it this way will take a lot, because you cannot do the enchanter at the end to finish off the item. But regardless, what you do, you add an offensive, you focus reroll until you get critical strike damage. The reason you do critical strike damage first, you see I got the max roll, but I'm not going to keep it. The reason you do critical strike damage first, it's because critical strike damage has the highest variance, right? It goes from 13 to 25, I believe. Let's see if we get it. Vulnerable. You do want to get it eventually as well, but not the biggest one here. As I said before, you can use the transmute here to speed up things. And we're clearly not getting lucky enough here on the focus rerolls. Okay, we're getting a lot of all damage, but there we go. Critical strike damage multiplier. As you can see, 13 to 25. This has the highest range. So you want to roll this first, and then you add something, and you hope you hit something that you like. We didn't. We hit the fire damage multiplier. Fire damage multiplier is 7 to 10, so that's 4 ranges, right? The same goes for all damage, the same goes for physical damage. It goes from 7 to 10, so it's a 1 in 4 that you get the max one. The range, the damage variance is not too high. When it comes to crit damage, it's 13 to 25. So that's... okay, it's actually fun. That's 13 different rolls. So the damage difference is much higher if you get the high roll or a min roll. In this case, we got fire damage. We cannot use fire damage. We just remove. Make sure to remove with the aggressive one, because at the very least you keep the cooldown in this case. So we got the crit damage multi. Good. We add again, and we hope we get luckier this time around. We got all damage multiplier. Now, on this craft, I don't want all damage multiplier. If that was vulnerable, I would keep this and go for the crit to finish it off, right? I'll just add the crit and try to finish it off. The crit chance. The crit chance is also, it goes from 3 to 5, so it's a 5 roll, so it's a 1 in 5 for it to get a good one, right? I'll honestly settle for a 4 in 5, but regardless, on this one, crit damage, we want crit damage, Von, and crit chance, so we can't take this. We either add and see if we get crit chance at the end, we can do that. And then we just roll the all damage, because right now, we can either get Von damage, crit chance, strength, or attack speed. So this is a 2 in 5. It's a 2 in 3. Because vulnerable is good, crit chance is good, attack speed is bad, but strength, if you hit, you can remove, so it doesn't matter. So we add this one. And we got strength, so like I said, doesn't matter, it's just you go again. If you get strength, you go again. It just takes a bit more resources, but it doesn't, you know, reduce your... Oh, I forgot. We're gonna have to remove with a life. It doesn't set you back anything. If you get strength, it doesn't set you back whatsoever, right? So, strength again, we remove it. And we add offensive again. And we got crit chance, that's good. So now, what you do is, you got the crit chance, good. You come over here, you reroll the all damage multiplier to vulnerable damage, and you're done with this ring as well, right? Now, when it comes to your chest piece, right, we have multiple choices here. So let's start with this one, because the strength is quite easy to add, right? The strength, you always want to start with a J resource on this one. J resource is what you want. When it comes to strength, you just do what we did before. You add this one here. I'm gonna actually have 2 of them here just to be able to show you guys, right? You come in here, you add the strength, right? We don't have strength there, we want strength. You add the strength. It's quite simple. You'll either hit the strength or you'll hit, we're gonna do focus roll because that strength is low, we don't want it, right? You can also hit skills, right? So you just keep rolling. This time you don't need to add strength and remove strength and add it again. You don't need to do that anymore because strength is not the only one you have. On the weapons you have to do it because on the weapons strength is the only thing that this Adept Tuning Prism can hit because we don't have skill ranks on weapons. On the chest piece we do have skill ranks. Same thing goes for the pants. So you can just focus your roll and just makes your life much easier because you don't need to do as much input. So in this case, we got something good already. So what you're gonna do now, no matter if this is Fury or if it is a life, if this is a League or if this is a life variant, what you're gonna do now is you're gonna get life on this momentarily if you're playing this a League. You're just gonna, in this case, I'm gonna lock this life. It's locked. If you're playing a Selig build and you don't have the life, roll life in there. You can do add life, add defensive, and just roll it into life. The reason you roll it into life is so you can come over here. Because if you try to mess with resource, you're gonna have to mess with your GA maximum resource, and you don't want to do that, right? You want it to stay quite safe. So you roll life, and then life is now locked, right? So it cannot roll down below. And what you do is you focus reroll defensive, because now it can only roll that resist. If you didn't have a defensive on the item, just add it, just add a defensive, and now you keep rolling until you get armor or all resists, depending on whatever you want for your build. Doesn't matter, it's the same process. So we got armor here. I like that amount of armor. It's quite a good amount of armor. So we're done here. If you're playing a Selig variant, you don't want max life, so what you do is just go over here, right, you put this bad boy back in here, and you roll the life away 2 fury per second, right? Quite that simple, right? Literally that. I can actually show you here. So we have strength and max life here. I don't want the cold resist, so what I'm gonna do as we're gonna focus reroll that cold resist until we get life. Actually, no, we're just gonna add something here. We're gonna add a defensive. Honestly, it doesn't matter in whatever way you do this. We got life, perfect. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna come over here. We're gonna lock that life. Life is locked. The reason you lock life, by the way, it's because life has the highest chance to appear. And you want this to not, to remove the highest thing, that so you can roll the other ones that are less likely. For example, all resists is very rare. If you have life also rolling, it just makes it way harder. So now we can just do focus roll defensives. And we keep going once again until we either get armor or all resists. Armor is going to be easier, but all resists is very nice to have, because all resists, like differently from what you get on jewels. For example, jewels, you get, if you do a single resist, it's really high, but if you do all resist, it's kind of low. When it comes to the armor, all resists is like 80% of a resist roll that you can get on armor. So it's much more worth it to get it on armor than to get it on the jewelry, for example. Regardless, we're going to be rolling until we get armor or resist. We got armor in this case. So what we do, we go back in here and we roll this life away. 2 resource per second. And then we will be done. Fury Regeneration. Oh, they changed the name, right? But yeah, Fury Regeneration, there we go. And this is a perfect arm piece for a Selig build, right? There we go. Now, when it comes to Pent, this is Selig only. If you're playing Life, you should be playing with Diablo's Will, because why the hell are you not doing it? Anyway, if we're rolling this for Selig, it's quite easy. You either start with Strength or you start with Fury Regeneration. Either or doesn't really matter. This is quite simple. So we do it this again. We add Strength. It doesn't matter in what order you do this. So we add Strength. We got basic skills. Doesn't matter, you can do focus reroll here until you get Strength. Strength, pretty good roll. We keep that Strength, amazing. Now, we're gonna have 2 defensives. If you're playing a life build, you want life, you don't even want Fury Regeneration, because this, again, you don't really run this on a life build. But regardless, we add 2 defensives. We don't care what they are, right? Okay. So we're gonna do the same thing we did on the chest on this one. We're gonna come over here. We're gonna lock life. No matter what you're doing, you lock life. And then you put this pants back in here. And you just roll this until you do focus reroll. Dodge is a defensive one, right? You do focus reroll until you hit either armor or all resists. All resists is ideal, because all resists are much harder to roll, and it becomes quite expensive if you keep rolling here. On the enchanter, it's really expensive, while on the cube, it's always the same price, right? On the cube, it doesn't get more expensive. On the enchanter, the more times you roll an item, the more expensive it gets. So I would recommend rolling all resists on the pent. Just even if you hit armor, you roll over armor until you get all resists. And then you come over here and you roll the life over to... Okay, we skipped armor there. You roll the life over to armor. There we go. And it's done, right? Again, you can keep rolling to get the better armor. All these things, you can keep rolling them until you get the better value, right? Just depends on what you want to settle with. If you start with a strength one, it doesn't change anything. Because what you do, first of all, this one, for example, is potion capacity. Potion capacity is an utility one. So you just remove. You don't want the utility one, right? It's kind of useless for you. So you just remove it. Right? There you go. This is clean now. So what we'll do is you come over here, you add the resource one. And there we go, you got Fury Generation. If you don't get Fury Generation, you just do focus roll until you get it, and until you get the 4, right? Because you want the 4 because it's better than 3, right? 4 is higher than 3. From this spot, it's the same thing we did before. We roll, we go and lock life over here. It's the exact same process here. It just changes what you do in the beginning, and now you're gonna keep it here, and you're gonna keep rolling until you hit those all resists. This will take a while. I got very lucky on the other pent, but you just keep doing it until you get all resists. Once you get all resists, let's pretend that lightning resist is all resists, right? So we don't spend all day here. You just come over here, you roll this life again into armor, and you are done with the craft, right? Perfect. Now, boots. Boots, you want them for both Selig and the non-Selig variants, but it's exactly the same thing for both variants. The difference is either you roll life or you roll resource. So, in this case, right, let's actually start with one that's worst here. So let's start with this Warcry one, right? Warcry. Now, you do have a bit of an issue here. And the issue is you don't, both Warcry ranks and strength use the same thing here. The reason this is an issue is, let's actually clean this one up so I can show this. Where's the, okay, yeah, let's actually use this one then. So, because this is the hardest one to craft. If you start with strength, you get max life. I want max life. If you don't want max life, you remove it and you put the resource, right? But I want max life. I like max life being there. I like the movement speed being there. If I want a better movement speed, right? You just do focus reroll with this one. And you just keep doing it. Oh yeah, it can hit the healing received. I forgot that that one also counts. So in this case, I'll just remove one of them. Right, because movement speed and utility are the same one, sadly. And now I'll just focus the roll until I get a better movement speed roll, right? There we go, 23. 23 is slightly better. I think I'm gonna settle on that. Now, the hard part here is gonna be adding the Warcry ranks. That's gonna be the hard part. Because there's a good possibility that you just don't hit Warcry. And here I completely fucked it up. Because I rolled over the strength. I did a focus reroll instead. You need to be careful, because sometimes the cube, like happened here, it kept the thing I was doing, sometimes it doesn't and you just forget, and something like this happens. That's unfortunate, we lost the strength, but I'm still gonna use this as an example. So, let's say that strength is still a GA, right? I didn't screw this up, roll back the tape, I didn't screw anything up, that's still a strength GA, right? So, what you do is you'd come over here and let's say I didn't hit, let's assume I didn't actually hit the Warcry ranks, right? Let's say I got charged or something. So you can do this one of two ways. Either you can lock the strength, either you can come here and you'll just roll the Warcry ranks, right? And you keep rolling it. You just roll the charge rank, sorry, and you keep rolling it until you actually hit the Warcry ranks. Or what you can do, that's way cheaper, I would say, is you lock the strength, the GA strength. Let's assume that's GA strength, right? We didn't fuck it up. See, we got max roll. That's basically GA. But yeah, you lock the strength and then you do focus reroll with this, right? Because now it cannot hit the strength. Now it will always roll that bottom one and you can just keep rolling until you get your Warcry ranks. This will save you a bunch of gold because rolling ranks can be quite expensive. I can tell you these boots I have here, they are transmogrified, but these boots I have here cost me a lot more to roll. Okay, not this one's actually, this one's I didn't roll, but yeah, I had a pair of boots that went up to 30 million re-rolling, because I just got unlucky. Getting the ranks, especially getting the max roll of the ranks, is very hard, and if you use the cube, it's much simpler. Now, when it comes to this one, if you're going for Fury Generation GA, it's kind of simple, right? Because you're not running life here, but it's the same process. So you want to add a utility / movement speed one, and you're gonna keep rolling until you get movement speed. Just gonna keep doing this. And we got movement speed. I'm gonna settle for that movement speed, right? Let's settle for that one. And now we just gonna add something here. Doesn't matter what it is. We're gonna roll this into strength for the same reason we did before, right? Just gonna, you don't even need to roll. You can just come here, right? You don't even need to roll it, actually. You can just come here. You roll that strength. You try to get a good strength roll, 120. That's good, right? That's a very good one. And then you do what we did before. Because now, strength cannot be rolled at all. So you add this. And you got Warcry rank. If you don't, like we are getting lucky here. It's just to focus your roll until you get the Warcry rank, until you get +3, right? You keep doing this. Once you got the strength locked, it's very easy to get it. You got Warcry again. It's not +3, so we keep going. Right? And we got +3 again. Perfect. This is a perfect pair of boots. If you're playing Selig, you get a bunch of your regen. This is perfect, right? Now for all of these items we use as examples here, right? Oh yeah, and if you start with Warcry, let's actually cover this one first. If you start Warcry, so we're gonna add. This is actually potentially easier, I would say. And it's maybe stronger, I'm not 100% certain, but regardless, you're gonna add the speed and utility. You're gonna do Fox roll until you get the movement speed. Right, okay, that's a bad roll. Let's go for something better. Let's go for like 23 plus, maybe. We gotta stay on whatever the next one is, because this is just an example, right? So, you keep rolling, you keep rolling. Movement speed is kind of the hardest one to do, so that's the one I do first. Because there's a bunch of utility stuff that just kind of gets in the way. But what can you do? There we go, 20%. That's the worst, but whatever. We're gonna settle on it. We can fix it later if we want to. Now, depending on what you want again, you're either gonna add defenses, or you're gonna add defenses for life, or you're gonna add resource for fury per second, right? Not this one, sorry. Resource, there we go. Resource for fury per second. Depending on what you want, let's do fury per second on this one. Doesn't really matter, either or, right? We didn't get the 4%. Getting the 4% is kind of important. But as you can see, this is the reason I want to use it here. You can only roll fury generation. I cannot do focus reroll anymore. As you can see, I cannot do focus reroll. It doesn't allow me. That's the same thing that happens with strength on the weapons. So what you have to do is you have to remove and add it back in. If you want to save... oh, I messed up there and I got lucky. I accidentally removed this thing. Be careful to not do that. Don't do what I did there, but yeah. You just keep doing remove and add until you actually hit the resource that you want. So, unlucky, we didn't get it. We do it again. Until you get the +4. It's a 50-50, by the way. This is actually... this is a 50-50, believe it or not. Okay, this is... There we go. Okay, now we got it. So, what you do to finish this off is you roll strength. Right? You add a strength. Now, let's say you don't like the strength that you have there. You have two ways of doing this. You either lock Warcry, right? Or you just roll the strength. Honestly, here you can go either way. You can either, it depends on how much gold you have, I guess. You can either lock Warcry and then you just keep rolling strength on the cube. Or you can just roll the strength and roll it into a good value, right? That's completely up to you. Whatever you prefer here. Personally, I think I would go with rolling strength because it's quite common, right? Strength is quite common, and like I do have a lot of cube materials, but I kinda do value them. And strength, it is the most common one, so I just roll strength and try and get a better value. I say that, and then we get no strength rolls whatsoever. There we go. Strength is quite common, I just got a bit unlucky there. I would say it's better than to lock Warcry, but if you are low on gold, maybe lock Warcry and roll it on the cube, either or, it's fine. And now that you got the item to the degree you wanted to, make sure before you do anything else, before you put legendary, that you roll everything. So if you don't like the strength, make sure to keep rolling it. But, you know, I don't really mind the strength, so I'm just gonna masterwork the item. Just gonna finish it off now. You masterwork it. You put the masterwork, maybe, let's say, weapon damage, right? Let's keep it on the weapon damage. You temper it, so I think I'm going for... Let's say I have enough crit, let's go for damage per overpower charge. You put the damage per overpower charge, per overpower stack, I guess. Put it over there. Bam. You do this until you actually get the GA on it. If you're not as unlucky as I am, it shouldn't take too long. There you go. And you finish it off. In this case, I'm running Limitless. So we're gonna put Limitless on this. And it's not quite ready for the cube. Don't forget the sockets. The sockets are very important. You come over here. Double socket. Bada bing bada boom. And now this item is ready to go on the cube. Right? You slam this in here. Bam. And you get nothing. Because that's just how this works. You got GI on the strength. Amazing. Now see, you don't need to roll the strength because you just get GI. But yeah, that's it. But yeah, guys, that's gonna be it for the video today. If there's anything that you want me to craft and show you guys, let me know in the comments. Maybe on the next video, I'll use it as an example for you guys to learn. But yeah, that's gonna be it. One thing I do want to point out before we finish the video out is how do you get all of these resources for the cube? The best way I found is to run... First of all, you need to get these escalations here. You need to get these 3 points down here, and this, you go down here, right? And then you go down here. The reason is you want to run escalation dungeons. Escalation dungeons give you a lot extra resources, and the resources you're going to be farming is you're going to be running this, where are they? Okay. You're going to be running these material reserves, right? And you want to run this, you'll get 8 to 10 chests or something on the dungeon. You open them up, you get a bunch of cube materials, and you get a bunch of Forgotten Souls, which is also very nice, because I'm sure all of you are liking Forgotten Souls. And since you're running this thing here, every time you finish one up, you'll have 3 choices, and you just have to choose the material resource one, or whatever other one you prefer, but material resources is what you want here. When it comes to getting the GA items, right? GA items, it's the same exact process, but instead of using material reserves, you use this, the Obel's reserve one. It's the same exact method, you just use different ones. Material reserves for materials for the cube and Forgotten Souls. Obel reserves to get GA items, you just gamble them here. This is how I got all these maces here that I'm gonna be gambling to try and get the gem strength and modified, right? But that's how I got all of this. You just come here, you get them, you'll get the bunch with a bunch of GAs. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. That's how I got all the GAs you see here. It's like you'll get them quite fast just by running 1 or 2. You'll get them easily. But yeah, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope this video helped you guys. I do apologize for the lateness of the video. We're already like 3 weeks into the season. I was supposed to make this video like 1.5 weeks ago, but I was trying to make it the other one, and this already was very long. I think we're already running above like 30 minutes. So yeah, thanks for watching. We're gonna finish it here. We're not gonna run it longer, and yeah, see you next time for more Whirlwind content and maybe crafting content from now on. We'll see. Bye bye.